very good evening and welcome to Newswatch. This 11th of October 2022. We're coming to you live from 28 Valley Road with the latest news in the country. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm Tony Omondi and our sign language interpreter is Boniface Muridhi. Let's get started. Now, a Wiper Party leader, Kalonzo Musyoka, has urged President William Ruto to rethink his stance on GMO foods, noting that GMOs will only solve the short-term concern of food shortage in the country, but Kenyans might experience adverse health effects in the long run. Kalonzo, who addressed the press today, said GMO foods will bring up issues with exporting as neighboring countries do not advocate for GMOs. On October 3rd, President Ruto lifted the ban on genetically modified crops that was imposed in 2012, a matter that has attracted widespread criticism. Grace Ongoi reports.
Concerns over the lifting of the ban on GMO foods in the country continues to grow by the day. Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka becomes the latest party to urge President William Ruto to reconsider his stance on lifting the ban on GMO foods. According to Kalonzo, although GMO will reduce food shortage in the country, citizens will grapple with adverse health effects in the long run. He was concerned that the rush to introduce GMOs was happening at a time when developed countries were going organic.
Science has shown grey areas as far as the safety of consumption of GMOs is concerned. This poses a grave challenge to already emaciated healthcare system in the long term. The dependence of GMOs on toxic herbicides is a threat to human health and the environment. The rush, therefore, to introduce GMO is alarming when the able in society, as well as many developed countries, are going organic. In fact, you go to any supermarket in Europe and you want to buy GMO food, the shop owners will tell you this is GMO, this is organic. And the organic food is more expensive than the GMO. This is the reality. We therefore must remain organic and avoid acceleration of food-related diseases such as cancer.
President William Ruto lifted the ban on genetically modified crops following what he said were recommendations of the task force formed to review matters relating to genetically modified foods and food safety. Kalonzo expressed disapproval of the introduction of GMO, adding that it will hinder the country's capacity to export to neighboring countries who are not advocates of GMO.
I'm calling on William to also reconsider for the sake of this country. A leader is one who says, I'm properly guided, or let's discuss. But to lift the ban, and then you go to Tanzania the following day, alafu nasema haya mahindi yetu hampati, njaa inazidi. Are we only going to be relying on kitunguu from Loitoktok ambayo inatoka upande wa Tanzania? Even kitunguu may be GMO.
Kalonzo called on Kenyans to diversify their foods, saying currently the country's food security has been premised on maize consumption alone, and yet there were other food varieties. At the same time, Kalonzo called out the church and urged it to speak against the introduction of GMO foods in Kenya.
The church and religious institutions need to add their voice to that of the civil society in condemning introduction of genetically modified food crops and pesticides in Kenya. Food security, my second point, should not be premised on maize consumption alone. We speak to all of us as Kenyans. There are other varieties of organic food such as sorghum, millet. Some of us grew on millet. And I can tell you, your only competitors are the birds. Sweet potatoes, cassava, etc. that can complement or substitute shortage of maize diet. Kenyans ought to be sensitized on the need to diversify their eating culture and be able to demonopolize their dependency on a few staples like maize and rice.
Grace Ongoi for TV Newswatch.
Meanwhile, the Biodiversity and Biosafety Association of Kenya, BIBA, has weighed in on the genetically modified organisms, GMOs, debate in the country that has continued to elicit mixed reactions. Speaking during a forum hosted by the Evangelical Alliance of Kenya, EAK, Dr. Daniel Maingi, who is a geneticist, said genetically modified crops require the use of more herbicides, which can be harmful to humans. According to the association, the ban on the GMOs should never have been lifted.
But biotechnology is very broad. Even the baking of bread, brewing and Other issues are biotechnology. The controversial one is genetic modification of our foods, and that is what has been a key concern for us. The world over, there are only 4 commercialized genetically modified foods or products, and that is GMO soya. And they say actually about 70 to 80% of soya in the world, including what we import in Kenya, is genetically engineered. Then we have BT cotton, which is GMO cotton. Then we have GMO maize and what is called rapeseed or canola, which is mostly produced for making oil. And one of our key concerns, especially now with the government's move to lift the ban, and let me say that the ban was on GMO food imports. Research was still ongoing, and you'll hear a lot of research going on, even within ILRI, CARI. There's also even research going on for GMO potatoes. There are even GMO animals, GM salmon, GMO mosquitoes. In the mosquito case, I think there's testing going on in Beta, Lake Victoria, where they're developing a female, or rather a male mosquito that mates with a female Anopheles mosquito and makes it sterile. But on the food issue, for example, maize, which we have raised a lot of concern about, is a staple in Africa. And in Kenya, especially sub-Saharan Africa, we feed on it almost daily, at least once a day. And there have been a lot of questions and concerns that have been raised by scientists on both sides, and there's no conclusion on the safety.
It is a problem. The cause is glyphosate, or Roundup, the active ingredient glyphosate, which is a possible carcinogen, has made it in many places become banned, and in the EU they're phasing it out. When you spray Roundup near a well, the water seeps into the ground, and it has been found even 40 years to be very active as a carcinogen. A carcinogen is a protein that gets into your blood circulation and gives wrong instructions for things to multiply and cancer.
Away from that now, Azimio la Umoja One Kenya Coalition Party leader Raila Odinga has accused President William Ruto's government of failing to honor election promises made to Kenyans during the campaign period. Speaking at the Jivanjee Gardens in Nairobi, Odinga said the cost of living has drastically risen, blaming the Ruto-Gachagua administration for lifting subsidies that had been put in place by former President Uhuru Kenyatta to lower the cost of living. At the same time, the Azimio leader laughed off the reduction of fertilizer prices, terming it a ploy by the state to loot public funds.
Wakenya wote ambao walijitokeza siku ile kupiga kura hawana maana, tukasema tutakaa chini tuone vile wataendelea. Kabisa. Sio? Kabisa. Ndio sababu mimi nimekaa. Lakini sijakaa kwa sababu nimeridhika. Hapana. Nimekataa kwa sababu nimeona maovu inaongoza. Sasa ukweli ibaki nyuma kwanza. Sasa lakini mimi nahisi vile nyinyi mnahisi. Najua gharama imepanda juu zaidi. Najua kwamba bei ya unga imepanda. Na kwamba bei ya mafuta imepanda. Nauli ya kutembea vile vile imepanda.
Moving on, over 2,000 households in Isiolo County will benefit from foodstuff worth 12 million shillings under the Pamoja Tuungane initiative. The Pamoja initiative was launched in April and is aimed at rallying Kenyans to support those suffering from the effects of the prolonged drought in the country. Safaricom CEO Peter Ndegwa, who will preside over the food distribution exercise on Wednesday, called upon Kenyans and organizations to double their efforts in supporting those affected. The number of Kenyans currently in need of humanitarian assistance is projected to increase to 4.35 million by the end of this month.
Kenyans who have donated bonga points and bonga points and cash worth about 12 million Kenya shillings. So we also, of course, asked Kenyans the bonga points and the bonga points were 8.7. That added together with the rest comes to 12.7 million, which is the addition to the 100 million that Safaricom and M-Pesa Foundation donated. So tomorrow we are going to Isiolo to be able to offer support to 2,400 families, households. That means we will impact more than 12,000 individuals by that distribution.
We appreciate Safaricom and other partners who have come, join hands to support in the drought response. And we urge other private sectors to join the team so that together we can mitigate on the current drought. The government alone cannot address the issue of drought, and that's why we have multi-sector approach towards addressing drought. The government, the county government, development partners, and the private sectors. So we look forward to further engagement.
And former National Assembly Majority Leader Amos Kimunya has Tuesday been freed on a cash bail of 700,000 shillings by Nairobi court as he prepares to defend himself in the reinstated corruption case that involves land fraud. Limani Chief Magistrate Lawrence Mugambi released Kimunya and his two co-accused persons, Lilian Wangeri and Janke Wanaina, after they appeared before him following a High Court order that overturned their acquittal in the corruption case 2 years ago. Mugambi directed the three accused persons to appear before Senior Principal Magistrate Peter Ooko on October 31st, 2022 for directions on how they will tender their defense.
During the entire trial period, the accused person has shown consistency in attending court. Further, even the appeal by the prosecution, he was notified 2 years after his acquittal, and yet he still appeared before the Honorable Court, before the Honorable High Court. There are no compelling reasons. No reasons have been given before you whatsoever that you cannot exercise your discretion under Article 49 as read together with Section 123 and 123A, and duly adjudge that reasonable conditions in this matter can allow you to release the third accused person on free bond.
I believe the submission that I should consider the impact of this on bail term is reasonable. For the first accused, I will thus reduce the terms of bail from the previous Kenya shillings 1 million, the alternative 2 million board, to the new term as follows: Kenya shillings 700,000 cash bail, in the alternative board of Kenya shillings 1.5 million plus a share to like amount. I find no merit for insistence of review of previous terms to the then accused to convert them into personal terms. It shall be retained on similar terms as before.
Embu Governor Cecily Mbarire has given the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, DCI, a 2-week ultimatum to conclude investigations into the reported murder of 7 family members in Ngimari Village, Runyenjes constituency. The governor, who spoke during the burial ceremony of the family members who were burnt in their house on October 2nd, said that she will not rest until the perpetrators of the heinous act are brought to book. The governor said that all indications from early investigations show that the death of the 7 family members was as a result of arson. The 7 who died were a husband, his wife, their 3 children and 2 grandchildren. The bodies of the deceased 7 family members were laid to rest at Ngimari Village, Gichihe sublocation, Runyenjes constituency, Embu, in a mass grave within their compound.
It's hard to believe it is time we say goodbye to you, Sister Shiloh. No one of us could see or even suspect this day will ever come. It was a great honor to have you as our young sister in our family.
You meant so much to all of us. You were special and there is no lie. You brightened the dark days and the clouded sky. We can't remember the first time we saw your face, but we do know within our life no one can take your places.
Kitendo ambacho kilitendeka hapa ni kitendo cha kinyama. Ni kitendo ambacho ni hatia na hakuna mtu ambaye anafurahia kwa kitendo kama hiki. Kwa hivyo mimi nataka kuhakikishia kwamba tunaendelea na uchunguzi kupitia ofisi yetu ya DCI, na sio DCI wa Embu East peke yake, ni DCI kutoka kwa county. Manake wakati kulifanyika hiki kitendo tulipata even scene of crime officers kutoka Embu County na wakaweza kufika hapa, wanaendelea kufanya kazi yao. Kwa hivyo kile kitu ningewaomba wananchi ni tutulie, tupeane nafasi ili uchunguzi uweze kufanyika vizuri.
We will not rest until the person behind this heinous act is behind bars. And I agree with what my deputy governor amesema kwamba Mheshimiwa Karemba, you are not alone in this.
Right, that story takes us to a fast break on Hope TV. Newswatch will be back with more stories. Just stay tuned.
The RAF is a chance to showcase your talent in music, dance, poetry, acrobatics and more, and stand a chance to win 500,000 shillings, a recording deal at Hope Recording Studios and many more prizes. The RAF is a space for talented youth between the ages of 18 and 24 years. Auditions in Mombasa will be on Thursday, the 13th of October 2022 at City Mombasa, and transport to the venue will be provided from Nyali Cinemax and Technical University of Mombasa at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. and noon. To register, send an SMS starting with hashtag The RAF with your name, county and talent to 22232 to get an invite to auditions happening near you. For more information, please call 0709 861 223. Remember to carry a copy of your national ID to the auditions. The RAF, identifying talent, inspiring passion. Every Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. Spotlight.
Do you feel that they are in a place where they can effect a Barack Obama moment?
When you hear the word of God and you hear Jesus is speaking.
Real talk on real issues.
You know the Bible says faith without works is dead.
The truth of the gospel that will survive the time is not a health and wealth gospel.
When there is time to harmonize and bring one composite amendment.
With idealistic, thought-provoking guests.
So people come to be serviced, to be encouraged, to be empowered.
When the storm is over, you desire the closeness you have with God.
Hosted by Reverend Edward Furi.
Welcome back to Newswatch. President William Ruto has launched the enhanced Nairobi Securities Exchange Marketplace at the Exchange Building in Nairobi. Speaking during the event, where he also rang the bell to signify the opening of the market trading of the day, the head of state reiterated that his government will raise financing for government projects through the Nairobi Bourse as opposed to borrowing from external markets, adding that the government will also list between 6 and 10 state corporations on the NSE within the first year of his administration. Kennedy Kimani has this report.
3, 2, 1, and now the bell goes, ladies and gentlemen.
President William Ruto has indicated that his government will raise money for government projects through the Nairobi Securities Exchange as opposed to borrowing from external markets. Speaking in Nairobi on Tuesday at the Exchange Building where he launched the enhanced Nairobi Securities Exchange Marketplace, President Ruto said that the government will also list between 6 and 10 state corporations on the NSE within the first year of his administration.
My administration intends to not only focus on strengthening and deepening our capital markets to become an alternative source of development capital, but also an alternative form of investment to most Kenyans. This is why we have established for the first time a State Department for Investment Promotion under a principal secretary in the Ministry of Industry, Trade and Investment.
The head of state also said he's looking forward to a situation where many Kenyans will be trading at the NSC, including boda boda operators and mamambogas.
I expect that the private sector will work with the capital markets so that we can also have companies from the private sector listing in the Nairobi Stock Exchange. My government is prepared to work with companies that want to list in the stock exchange.
The NSC is the 5th largest exchange in Africa and the 2nd most diverse after South Africa. Kennedy Kimani, Hope TV Newswatch, Nairobi.
Kenya has joined the rest of the world in celebrating the International Day of the Girl Child. The celebrations were a culmination of 10 years celebrations since the inception of the International Day of the Girl Takeover concept by Plan International Global. Various women in leadership spaces appealed to girls to take up opportunities without fear. This comes as some organizations claim that the girl child continues to face unprecedented challenges to their education, physical and mental wellness. Here's Dolly Murigi with the story.
The International Day of the Girl Child focuses attention on the need to address the challenges that girls face and promotes girls' empowerment and fulfillment of their human rights. The day is celebrated every year on October 11th since its adoption in 2011. The theme of this year's event is Our Time is Now, Our Right, Our Future. It also marks the 10th anniversary of the International Day of the Girl. In the last 10 years, there has been increased attention on issues that matter to girls among government, policymakers and general public, and more opportunity for girls to have their voice heard on the global stage. Yet investment in girls' rights remain limited and girls continue to confront a myriad of challenges to fulfilling the potential made worse by concurrent crises of climate change, COVID-19 and humanitarian conflict.
I hope that today's engagement will inspire and empower girls to know that they can participate in leadership and decision-making processes that they can and should demand for equal power.
Speaking in Nairobi during the celebrations to mark the International Day of the Girl, politician Naisula Lesuda encouraged girls to be confident, affirming that women can balance both family and career life with ease.
Like now, we are really facing a serious situation of drought, and girls, women, they even, for every crisis that there is, we know that the girls and the women and children bear the greatest brand. And so today I just remember them, and it is important for us to think and to put measures in place to ensure that we take care of our girls and we give them a voice.
Despite the gains made in various sectors across the world, girls around the world continue to face unprecedented challenges to their education, their physical and mental wellness, and the protections needed for a life without violence. COVID-19 has worsened existing burdens on girls around the world and worn away important gains made over the last decade.
Girls and young women aged 15 to 24 make up the majority of the 267 million young people worldwide who are not in education, training or employment. In primary school, we had something close to equality. By the time you get to the ages of 15 to 24, 42% of girls are excluded, while 12% of boys are.
According to a report by the International Human Rights Organization, Equality Now, Kenya is a hotspot of commercial sexual exploitation of children in East Africa. According to the report, sexual abuse of minors is perceived to be influenced by multiple factors, by negative social norms and cultural practices, poverty, and social media platforms that circulate sexualized images. Dolly Mirigimbuvi for Hope TV, Nairobi.
Now moving to the counties, the Narok County Drought Steering Committee has raised concern over the drought situation that is worsening in the area. The committee, that was chaired by Governor Patrick Ntutu, observed that over 115,000 people have been affected by the ongoing drought, and the situation is expected to worsen in the month of October, November and December. Governor Ntutu said both the national and county governments are working round the clock to mitigate the effects of the drought. It is estimated to have affected over 173,000 people before the end of the year. He raised concern over an influx of livestock from neighboring county Kajiado and neighboring country Tanzania that had affected pasture in Mosiro and Siana wards, respectively.
With the county commissioner and the security team, and also the office of the county the governor's office, and we are meeting today with only one agenda, which is really to assess the drought situation in our county. And indeed, as you all know, at the moment there is drought in our county, just like the other parts of the country. And we have seen that Narok West has been affected, particularly Naikara Ward, Siana Ward, and the lower part of Mara Ward. And also when you go to Narok South, Olengulo location, and Nduka, and the Langatenderit, and part of the Loita are also affected, and Majimoto. When you also go to Narok East, Mosiro has been affected, and Susua. And the reason for that is because, again, we had an influx of livestock from the neighboring counties, particularly Kajiado, and also on the lower part of Mara, particularly Naikara Ward and Siana. Also, we had influx of livestock from the neighboring country, Tanzania. And for the last 3 or 4 months, we have not gotten rain. So what we have done is, again, we have also heard that most of the schools have been affected, particularly in the areas that I have mentioned. And we are planning on how we can come up with supply foods, stuffs, and also see what we can do in terms of supplying water. We have started supplying water to Mosiro schools, starting about 2 days ago, and we are monitoring the situation. And also the national government is coming in. Today we have already come up with a report which we will be sending to the office of the Deputy President latest tomorrow, so that we can see whether we can get some good stuff, food stuff, to our county. Also, we have also realized that in our town here in Narok, the food prices is really going up, and we are trying to see whether we can also come up with measures. I think I'll give the county commissioner also maybe to comment, but generally we are planning on how we can help our county in terms of the areas that have been affected.
On behalf of the national government, we are monitoring the situation very keenly to ensure that no life is lost. No livestock is lost because of drought. We have come up with measures which we are going to put in place and request to the national government, so that together with the county government we can be able to ensure that our people, our livestock are safe.
And the Siaya County, Siaya Governor James Orengo has called on the Senate to allow county assemblies become the first port of call for all oversight issues raised against county executives. Orengo said that whereas he supports the Supreme Court's decision that governors must appear before the Senate when invited or summoned, there was need for the Senate to defer some of the responsibilities to the county assembly and only take them up when the matters failed to be addressed conclusively. He was giving his inaugural address to the Siaya County Assembly during his official opening of the first session of the third assembly.
I welcome the decision of the Supreme Court to the effect that governors must appear before the Senate when invited or summoned to do so. I have no qualms about that at all. Nevertheless, although I was formerly a member of the Senate, I think the Senate should also defer to the County Assembly as the first port of call, except in the exercise of oversight of a national revenue allocated to the county governments as provided in Article 96(3) of the Constitution. What I'm saying, in other words, is that when there's an issue involving oversight, over the county executive, the primacy of oversight rests with the county assembly, and the Senate should respect that boundary, until you're done with the executive on a matter of which the Senate and the county assembly has concerns or raised concerns, the county assembly should have the first bite in trying to oversight the county executive.
Now, police in Kwale County have launched investigations following an attack on private security guards manning the 120 million shilling Kombani Fresh Produce Wholesale Market. About 16 private security guards were left nursing serious injuries during the Monday morning incident. The market, which was launched last December by former Kwale Governor Salim Vuria, is currently facing a legal tussle between the contractor End-to-End Limited and the Kwale County government. One suspect has been arrested and is currently helping with investigations. Kwale County Police Commander Josephat Kinyua confirmed the incident, saying that they were now waiting for complainants to record statements for the suspect to be arraigned in court.
Leo asubuhi tukiwa tuko pale tulifanya ona tumevamiwa kutoka na mapanga. Walipitia waya za nyuma huko wakakata waya wakafanya kutokezea ile grupu. Sisi tulifanya kushtukizia. Ile kushtukizia sasa tukitamaki kutaka kukimbia. Nilipigwa panga ya hapa, nyama hapa kichwa ikaanguka hapa. Nikarudi tena nikapigwa panga ya hapa. Ni Mungu hapo nilikuwa nife. Na tulikuwa wengi.
Kidogo wakati ambapo tulikuwa tunataka wenzetu wenye waliingia tukitaka kupeana briefing, tunaona umati ya vijana zaidi ya 60 na kitu. Na wakishika mapanga, mafairs hivi na uta ambapo na mawe na machupa wakaanza uvamizi kule juu kwa fence upande wa juu. Sasa sisi wawili tulikuwa, mimi na huyu bwana tulikuwa upande wa juu na mwenzetu mmoja. Tukaona sasa watatuzidi nguvu, tukaitana reinforcement ambayo ilikuwa chini. Tayari walikuwa wameshaingia. Mawe, mafea nini, hata mimi nimegongwa na nini, na jiwe kubwa kanigonga hapa hivi.
Watu wangu wamepigwa vibaya, wengine huko hospitali, wengine sasa ndio tumetoa, wengine wamekuwa referred kwa Coast General Hospital. So tunaomba serikali vile hiyo kandarasi tulifanya kazi mzuri, vile na hiyo kuna kotoda na hizo kotoda zikuwe obeyed na until hiyo case ikuwe determined. Tunataka tuombe serikali ikuwe inalinda hiyo premises vile tulifanya hiyo kazi.
A group of community volunteers from Chuda Ward, Mvita constituency, Mombasa County has kicked off a massive cleanup exercise in their area as an initiative to address garbage menace. The volunteers took to the major streets of Chuda Ward, sweeping and clearing refuse from gutters and cleaning public beaches. Speaking during the cleanup exercise, the area MP called on Vita residents to keep the environment clean by disposing of waste materials in the designated areas provided by the county government. The residents who joined the cleanup exercise said the move will restore the glory of the tourist resort city.
Hii mambo safi ama mambo ya environment ni jukumu la kila mkazi wa Mombasa. Lazima tushirikiane na county kusaidia. Wao ni collectors, sisi ndo tuna produce uchafu. So uchafu ukitoka ndani ya nyumba yako tuhakikishe pia tumefollow up umeenda wapi, kwa sababu kuna private collectors wingi huwa wanalipwa na resident. Mtu anakuja anachukua taka, akifika njiani anazibwaga kokote, sisi alafu tunaanza kulaumu serikali ya kaunti.
Usafi wa mazingira ni kitu muhimu sana. Tunazuia magonjwa kwenye estate yetu. Hewa safi tunataka, na palipo upachafu huwezi kupata hewa safi. Niposa tumeweza kusema siku ya leo ya kusherehekea utamaduni tuweze kufanya usafi, na haijakomea hapa. Itakuwa after miezi miwili tunatoka nje. Siku ya Jamhuri tunataka kufanya tena usafi.
Let's now look at what is happening internationally. Ethiopia's President Saleh Work Zewde has called for negotiations and other peaceful means to end the country's nearly 2-year civil war in Tigray. Zude made the call while addressing the Ethiopian parliament on Monday on the budget for the next fiscal year. She also stated that the government of Ethiopia will not tolerate any provocation by Tigray People's Liberation Front, TPLF. President Zude's remarks come at a time that the long-awaited AU-brokered peace talks in South Africa were postponed without any new date set. The meeting between the warring sides in the 2-year-old conflict in Tigray would have been the first since a ceasefire broke down in late August. The conflict between Tigray People's Liberation Front, a political group that has ruled the northern region for decades, and Ethiopia's central government forces began in November 2020. And thousands of Haitians demonstrated Monday in Port-au-Prince to protest against the government and its call for foreign assistance to deal with endemic insecurity, a humanitarian crisis, and a burgeoning cholera epidemic. A day after UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for immediate deployment of a special international armed force in Haiti to help the crisis-hit Caribbean state, the demonstration in the capital was marred by violence, with police using tear gas to disperse looters. Several people were shot and one person was reported to have been killed during the rallies, with protesters blaming the police for their fatality. Haiti has been the scene for several weeks of violent demonstrations and looting after the announcement by the head of government of an increase in fuel prices. Demonstrators calling for the resignation of Prime Minister Ariel Henry, who appealed for international support, also took to the streets in other cities across the country.
The RAF is a chance to showcase your talent in music, dance, poetry, acrobatics, and more. And stand a chance to win 500,000 shillings, a recording deal at Hope Recording Studios, and many more prizes. The RAF is a space for talented youth between the ages of 18 and 24 years. Auditions in Mombasa will be on Thursday, the 13th of October 2022 at City Mombasa, and transport to the venue will be provided from Nyali Cinemax and Technical University of Mombasa at 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m. and noon. To register, send an SMS starting with hashtag #TheRAF with your name, county and talent to 22232 to get an invite to auditions happening near you. For more information, please call 0709 861 223. Remember to carry a copy of your national ID to the auditions. The RAF, identifying talent, inspiring passion.
Let's now look at some business news. Over 2,000 learners from Western Kenya region have benefited from classrooms, dormitories and water and sanitation facilities funded by Safaricom Foundation. In Bungoma County, learners from Sikulu Friends Primary School benefited from a classroom to improve access to education, while those in Luholwe FYM Primary School received an ablution block and water tank, which will enable access to clean, safe water in the school. In Kakamega County, Precious Virginia Home received a dormitory to accommodate 25 children with disabilities to support their education and health. To some sports news now, Red Bull and Aston Martin have been found in breach of Formula One financial rules by the sports governing body FIA. Any punishment will be decided at a later date. The FIA said a review of the teams had found that Red Bull, home of world champion Max Verstappen, is considered to be in procedural and minor overspend breaches of the financial regulations, with Aston Martin in procedural breach of the financial regulations. And Atletico Madrid have re-signed France forward Antoine Griezmann from Barcelona on a contract until 2026. Griezmann became the 6th most expensive player in history when he joined Barca in 2019. Griezmann scored 35 goals in 102 games before returning to Atletico on a 2-year loan at the start of last season. The 31-year-old has 3 goals and 2 assists in 11 appearances so far this campaign. All right, that story brings us to the end of this live broadcast tonight. Many thanks for staying tuned this far. Till next time, God bless. I'm Tony Omondi, and our sign language interpreter has been Boniface Murithi. Have a restful night.
Hope TV is where you look and live, with an excellent selection of the best Christian programming consisting of local and international content, of inspirational stories, talk shows, Bible commentary, youth, health shows, children entertainment, contemporary gospel music, extended times of worship, live broadcast, news, movies, drama, Christian ministry programs, and so much more. Hope TV is another quality service from Christ is the Answer Ministries, with over 45% of authentic and credible local content every week. Hope TV is a sister station to Hope FM, Kenya's leading Christian radio station, with footprints across the country. Tune in to Hope TV, where you look and live.